Right now, billions of people are watching the World Cup. Same game, same ball, same goal. But the stakes are completely different because the first version of this sport didn't end with a trophy. It ended with a beheading. And the team that died wasn't always the one that lost. Most people believe football was invented in England in 1863. That's when the Football Association wrote down the first official rules. That's when the modern game was born. That's what the history books say. It is not where the story begins. Organized ball games, with stone courts, codified rules, and thousands of spectators, existed 3,500 years before England invented the rulebook. And what they played back then makes modern football look like a children's game. In 1600 BCE, in what is now the Gulf Coast of Mexico, the Olmec civilization was playing a ball game, not with a leather ball filled with air, with solid natural rubber, dense, heavy, and nearly indestructible. The oldest rubber balls ever found were excavated at El Manati, a ritual site near Veracruz, Mexico. They date to 1600 BCE. They weren't toys, they were offerings, sacred objects buried alongside jade figurines and the bones of newborns. The ball was never just a ball. From the beginning, it was something more. Over the next 1,000 years, the game spread across Mesoamerica. The Maya adopted it and built their own version. The Zapotec played it, the Toltec played it. Eventually, the Aztec made it the centerpiece of their religious calendar. By the time Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 1500s, the game had been played continuously for over 3,000 years. Archaeologists have found more than 1,300 stone ball courts across Mexico and Central America. From small village courts barely 20 meters long to massive ceremonial stadiums the size of a city block, the game was everywhere. The largest ball court ever built still stands at Chichén Itzá in Mexico. It is 168 meters long and 70 meters wide, larger than a modern football pitch. The stone walls rise 8 meters on either side. Carved into those walls, mounted at a height of 8 meters, are 2 stone rings, vertical rings, the hole barely wider than the ball itself. To score, a player had to drive the ball through that ring, at 8 meters of height, without using their hands, without using their feet. The ball could only be struck with the hip, the knee, the elbow, or the thigh. Never hands, never feet. The hip was the primary weapon. Players wore thick curved yokes around their waists, made from stone or hardened leather. These were not decorative. A direct hit from a 4-kilogram rubber ball moving at full speed could fracture bone, could rupture internal organs. The yoke was the difference between playing and dying before the game even ended. Matches lasted hours. The most important ritual games lasted days. Crowds sat on the raised platforms above the court, watching every strike, and when it was over, someone died. This part is complicated, because for generations, historians assumed the same thing most people assume today, that the losers were sacrificed, the defeated team punished for failure. That is not what the evidence shows. The stone carvings at Chichén Itzá, examined closely, depict something different. In several panels, it is the winning captain standing over a kneeling figure. The winner holds a blade. The kneeling figure's head is being removed. But scholars now believe it is sometimes the winner himself who was sacrificed, not as punishment, but as the ultimate offering, to die at the peak of victory, in the most sacred game, watched by the gods. That was considered the highest honor a man could receive. His blood did not go to waste. It fed the sun. It kept the sky moving. It bought the world one more cycle. Because the ball game was never really about winning or losing. The ball represented the sun moving across the sky. The court was the boundary between the living world and Sibyl, the Maya underworld. The game was a reenactment of the most important story in Maya mythology. The Popol Vuh, the Maya sacred text, tells it like this. 2 brothers, the hero twins, were summoned to the underworld to play ball against the Lords of Death. The Lords of Death wanted to consume them. The hero twins outplayed them, and from that victory, humanity itself was created. Every time the game was played on Earth, it replayed that story. The players were not competing for glory, they were holding the universe together. The ball had to keep moving, because the ball was the sun, and if the sun stopped moving, the world ended. On the other side of the world, independently, a different version of the same impulse was developing. In China, around 300 BCE, a game called Cuju was being played at the imperial court. Cuju means simply, kick the ball. Unlike the Mesoamerican game, Cuju was played entirely with the feet. The ball was a leather sphere stuffed with feathers and animal hair. The goal was a silk net stretched between bamboo poles. There were professional players, there were coaches, there were referees. Han Dynasty texts describe Cuju matches lasting full days, with thousands of spectators and formal wagering. FIFA, football's global governing body, officially recognizes Cuju as the earliest known form of football. Not Mesoamerica, not England, China, 300 BCE. In 1863, the Football Association in London wrote down a set of rules. They called the game football. The world adopted it. 50 years later, it had spread to every continent on Earth. In 1930, the first FIFA World Cup was played in Uruguay. Today, 3 billion people watch the 2022 final. The World Cup is the most watched event in the history of human civilization. The game has changed completely. The ball is light. The players are protected. Nobody dies. There are no stone rings, no priests, no ritual sacrifice. But the structure of what is happening has not changed. 2 groups, 1 ball, rules that everyone agrees on, a crowd watching, stakes that feel enormous, a single moment that decides everything. The next time you watch a World Cup match, when the ball hits the back of the net, when the stadium erupts, when the players fall to their knees, think about what that moment comes from. 3,500 years of the same game, played by the Olmec, the Maya, the Aztec, the Chinese, the Greeks, the Romans, the English, different languages, different gods, different rules, the same ball, the same crowd. The same need buried deep in the human brain to compete and decide and watch and feel. The first football players were not playing for medals, they were playing for the sun, to keep the world moving one more day. Some of them gave their heads for it. You are watching the same game, with softer rules,